Unknown Thought is made possible through the generosity of sponsors who care about people. IC Savings Bank, Ready Honda, and Corey's Clothiers. I'm here today for another episode of Unknown Thought with a colleague, Rabbi Aaron Flanzraich, Senior Rabbi at Beth Shalom Congregation, not far from here. Aaron, I've been waiting for a chance to speak to a contemporary. There's probably questions I'll ask you that you can answer where I'd be afraid to answer, so I'm going to go for it. I know you're erudite and you have a lot to offer the viewer. Let's start with a very contemporary question. Rabbis have been around a very long time. How is it different now being a rabbi than it used to be? What are the challenges? Is it the same? Are the demands different? How do you see that?
I think the level of inspiration that people want is different. I think people expect rabbis to inspire them, where in past generations, I think people's inspiration came from other areas in life. Life was not suffused with all the kinds of edutainment opportunities that fill our world. Kids come out of school, students come out of universities, and often some of their first comments are, that professor is so boring. I wonder if they sat in a lecture with Kant or Kierkegaard, if they would have said the same thing. And so in short, I think the requirement of being inspiring, even at times, to the detriment of scholarship, is one of the greatest challenges, I think, facing rabbis today.
And consequently, does that mean that a synagogue's role has changed in Jewish life?
It depends on the community. Communities such as yours and mine, conservative congregations, more liberal congregations, it certainly has changed. They're not so much places where people go merely to perform mitzvot collectively, but people also look upon them in an almost iconoclastic way. Now, I often tell children that I speak to in the Hebrew school, I say to them, you know, if you drive by the building and you point to the shul and say, that's where I go, then we've accomplished a lot.
So, Aaron, what's it like? We're both rabbis, and we know that there's a challenge to be able to manage the public and private space. We're also aware that there are demands on our time that eventually we have to learn to retreat from so that we can reconstitute ourselves. How do you manage that?
I think at best it's imperfect. I don't think anybody does it really, really well. I think you see some people who you and I would characterize as being, they take themselves too seriously, meaning they're too caught up in the job. As a kid growing up, going to day school and yeshiva, I remember seeing my rabbis, they would always walk around in suits. They'd go to the beach with their families, they'd walk in suits. And then, of course, there's the opposite polar effect where some rabbis are overly casual to the point where there's a lack of almost a sense of rabbinic stamp to the things. I think, in short, what you have to be is you have to be true to yourself. And realizing that you're not going to make everybody happy, because often the image of what people want their rabbi to be will not be always what you're going to be. In the end, I think we know that in the quiet, dark moments of our nights, that there's an element of thanklessness that in fact makes us a very thankful job.
It's interesting. We know that often we privately look for inspiration from the Torah for how to handle this. I know you mentioned there was this unbelievably apropos dialogue about Moshe. If you care to share that with us.
Yeah, it's from the Midrash. It suggests with Rabbi Akiva, the very end of Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, refers to Moshe as Ish Elohim, which literally translated means a man of God. But Rabbi Akiva, being the brilliant scholar that he was, says in fact that it represents the duality of Moses' personality, that he was Chatzi Ish, Chatzi Elohim, half man, half God. And this beautifully describes the composite of all of us. But in truth, it speaks more profoundly about the rabbinic kind of personality, because most people can tuck away the godliness of themselves, pull it out at special occasions. But for us, it's a companion. We take it everywhere with us. And if we want to leave it at home sometimes, in the minds of everybody else around us, it follows us.
That's great. That's so true. I wonder what it's like to be the child of a rabbi in a contemporary world. I'm a child of a rabbi. I know how challenging it is because you see your father out there, community-minded, devoted to the community and the challenge of balancing family, community, especially in an ultra-Orthodox world. How is it for you? How do you feel your children will see you and your community, and what will they get out of the experience, and what will make them uncomfortable with that?
So I'll tell you a story. A number of years ago, my son had decided that he wanted to be a cantor. So I was very flattered. Actually, his voice is far better than mine. And then about 2 years ago, we're walking home one Shabbat afternoon from shul, and he says to me, "You know what, Dad?" He said, "I've been thinking, I don't want to be a cantor anymore." So I'm thinking, doctor, lawyer, accountant. No, rabbi.
Oy.
And I said, "Oy, such nachas, such goodness." And I said, "So why do you want to be a rabbi and not a cantor?" And he says to me, "You know, I've been looking at Eric, our cantor. He's up there for an hour, hour and a half. He's singing his lungs out. But you talk for 5 minutes, you sit down, you announce a page, you sit down. How hard could it really be?"
That's great.
I think in short, there's been some wonderful sociological material, particularly by Basil Herring, on the children of clergy. And one need only look at the biblical references of children of great men to know the cautionary tale that plays in our families.
It's true. It's very challenging. And I know that you have an additional challenge. You have a daughter that is autistic. How do you manage that? Father, daughter in shul, you're clearly distracted, you're busy. How does that play out in your life, and the amount of effort that has to go in at home, which is over and above typical child rearing? It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
My daughter, thankfully, is very high functioning. She's in a regular school room. I have to say my daughter has made me a much better rabbi. The famous quote by Nachman of Breslov, Kol ha'olam kulo, the world is a very narrow bridge. The idea is not to be afraid. We don't ask for life that we should always be safe. My daughter is a reminder of me of the razor edge, that we live on life all the time, that a protein here or a protein there, a left turn instead of a right turn, a yes instead of a no, and all of our lives are dramatically changed. And in truth, I could have only spoken about that theoretically 12 years ago, but now I speak of it knowingly.
That's very touching, I have to tell you. I understand, therefore, that being in the public eye will never tell your congregation the whole story. You find a way to inspire yourself, and when you're up there, you're perhaps of two minds. You're gaining inspiration from what you're saying as you're delivering to your congregation. What does inspire you? Let's talk textually. Let's start there. What textually inspires you?
That's a bit of a moving target. When I started off as a much younger version of myself, I found pure text, Talmud, Midrash, Halacha were the things that inspired me, in short because I felt that this was the surest connection that I could find to God. As I've developed myself over time, the more esoteric elements, in particular theology, existential philosophy, even psychology, I find profoundly inspiring. In short, great ideas, from wherever they come from, they absolutely create ripples inside of me, the excitement of which, when I stumble upon a great idea, I can't wait to share it with somebody. And I'm sure it's very much like you. When I read a book, everything is dog-eared, with little notes and whatnot, because I don't want to lose the gem that was on that page.
That's wonderful. So, what inspires you in terms of tefillah? We only have a few seconds left, but I just wonder, is there a prayer or something you hear and you just transport it into another space?
Shema Kolenu.
Shema Kolenu on high holidays?
Shema Kolenu, or in the Amidah, Shemea Tefillah, because it reminds for me that the surest proof of God's existence is that it's heard. It's not that we need answers, but that they're merely heard.
I'd like to come back and talk to you more about God and Israel and some other important rabbinic conversations. Thank you for being on today, Aaron. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Unknown Thought is made possible through the generosity of sponsors who care about people. IC Savings Bank, Ready Honda, and Corey's Clothiers. I'm here for another episode of Unknown Thought with Rabbi Aaron Flanzraich, Senior Rabbi at Beth Shalom Congregation, located on Eglinton at the Allen. We are colleagues, and Aaron, I am looking forward to picking your brain, so to speak, about Jewish ideas. You're young, you're inspiring, you have an adoring flock, people come to listen to you. One of the hardest things to talk about without sounding soporific is God. How do you, first of all, are you willing to tell us what you think about God? And then can you tell me perhaps how you talk about it so that young people and old people and people who have no idea about God or people who have an old idea about God, how do you make it relevant?
You know, the first point I think for most people is the realization that people generally freeze their perception of God. You could pluck a 50-year-old off the street and their perceptions of God are probably the same as they were when they were 13. The challenge that you and I face is that the God that you believed in when you were 13 and the one that I did is not the one that I believe in now. And this kind of evolutionary notion of God is found at the very beginning of the text of the Torah, because the God of Genesis is not the God of Deuteronomy, and it's not the God of Isaiah, and it's not the God of Chronicles. And so this evolutionary notion really, in some level, is a reflection, it's a metaphor of our own development as human beings. And so that's one of the things I try to explain to the congregation, is to challenge their idea of what they think God is. And then when they fix on that idea, take it apart and throw it away. Because more often than not, the God that we as children approach, or as adults who have a childlike understanding of God, is the God who's this kind of butler or this fixer of the universe, the one who's going to bail me out of trouble. You know, the old God in heaven, the Father in the sky who's going to save me. When in truth we know that God didn't give us religion. We made religion to answer to God. It's our answer to try to find God in all the areas in our life that we can. And so the God that inspires me is the God who I know will not heal me. God will not save me. But I know that God can inspire me to save and heal other people. And so, you know, there's a very famous story told about the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim. There was a great book written by about Aryeh Levin, who was a famous rabbi years ago. It was one of the first books I read. It might be 9 years old.
I read it too.
Yeah, everyone almost read it.
Yeah.
And they tell a story at the end of the book where when he would walk through the streets of Yerushalayim, every time he saw a man or a woman wearing a soldier's uniform, this was a Haredi guy, he would go over and shake their hands and say thank you. Now, if God is not found in that, where else?
That's fantastic. So, we're on the same page, but speaking of pages, you open the Siddur, you open the prayer book, and it's really fixed at that point where you abandon it. It actually is all about God, you're going to do this for me, God's going to do that, God's God, 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 God. God is essentially the big provider in heaven. How do you deal with that? I have a lot of trouble with it. For me, everything becomes abstract at that moment. But how do we get our congregations to understand that? Because they, in turn, are rejecting it, saying, if I actually read the translation, I don't want to say this stuff.
Of course. And, you know, the problems run themselves straight through when you look at the Shema, particularly the second paragraph of the Shema, the notions of reward and punishment, of paternalistic notions of God. These are problems. But then, of course, you have other elements of the tefillah, where you have the Tehillim, the Psalms, you have the Piyutim, you have, particularly on the high holidays, you have the Al-Chetim, the Yashamnu, which are poetically powerful, lyrical statements about the frailty of the human condition. The fact that, as Rudolf Otto, the great German theologian, once said, and it's paradoxical in its context, that we actually become more significant the less significant we consider ourselves to be. And so maybe on some level, all these notions of paternalistic deity, of having a paternalistic deity, and reward and punishment is simply an attempt on a metaphoric level at making us feel insignificant, so we appreciate the importance of our lives.
Yeah, and then this transference happens where we start to realize our insignificance, so therefore we abstract the concept, and we then go on to, as you described, become the godliness, essentially, and act it out and have the power to make those changes that we ascribe to the paternalistic God.
Exactly.
In the few minutes we have, I know you wrote a book about Israel and the threats to Israel, and I'd like you to perhaps give us a synopsis of your thinking and feeling, about terror, and about Israel, and about Israel's future as you see it.
The book particularly dealt with fundamentalism. And I wrote it in the years following September 11th. And I was very interested, fascinated in fact, with how religion could become a message of the kind of fundamentalist wedge that could lead people to do the things they do. And I wanted to understand, are these trends existent in Judaism? If so, where are they found? And if not, why? Why are they not found? And one of the things, in fact, that I discovered is that the fundamentalist trend that exists in the other religions also exists in Judaism. But the expression of the fundamentalist trend is very different in Judaism than it is in the other religions. Islam and Christianity, on some level, when the world doesn't match how they expect it to be, they fight against the world. But remarkably, the rabbinic tradition, when the rabbinic Jew sees the world not the way they want it to be, they don't turn against the world. They turn against themselves. And they ask themselves the most fundamental question: what can I do to make the world a little bit better?
So if you take the map and it shows a mountain and you get there and there's no mountain, you need another map.
Exactly.
This is a delicate question, but I think we can talk about it. We're both divorced. We find the challenge of being without a spouse difficult. It's not an easy thing to be public and divorced and a rabbi. I'm not asking for dating tips, but I want to know, that harkens back to the expectations put on us. A rabbi should have da-da-da. What would you say to your congregation or the congregations of people listening to? How can we tell them how they should see us?
As people. And that not that we expect a life always to be perfect. You shouldn't be able to look at a rabbi or any person and expect them to live a perfect life. If they're blessed with it, wonderful. But in short, if our lives can't be perfect, then how we respond to the imperfections should be inspiring to the people who surround us.
Which is the story of the heroes of Israel. Everyone was flawed and everyone tried to get through it. Now here's to wrap up some of the items and ideas we've talked about. If you're willing to move beyond the notion of God in the past, and you are willing to sort of grow with God and grow with your understanding, would you ever consider giving up the Islanders for the Maple Leafs?
Never. You know why? The reason why I'm a fan of the New York Islanders is because I have something that no Maple Leaf fan can ever attest to. I actually have seen my team win the Stanley Cup in full color, not black and white.
That's painful.
But true.
That's very painful. Well, Aaron, I know you're doing tremendous work with your kahila, your congregation, are really inspired. In a few seconds, what's next? How do you see this? Where are you going? What are the trends? What are the ideas?
Trends, ideas, I think writing, more public speaking. I think that rabbis like you have to spend more time communicating to the larger community a clear, cogent, rational Jewish voice. Because in the absence of clear, rational voices, the opposite will appear. And that we have to remind our community that religion is not about answers, it's about inspiration.
Fantastic. Now you know why he's so cool. Thank you for being here, Aaron.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My guest is Ehud Cohen. He's a trainer and owner of the Power Club in Toronto. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I want to talk about you as an Israeli, not as a trainer, if I can do that. Now, you were born in Israel.
True.
Your parents, where are they from?
My mom, she's 14th generation in Israel, so that makes
Oh,
her
way,
Israeli.
way back.
Her background is from Spain. Way before the Inquisition, they felt that everything is wrong, and they came to Israel, helped to build
way
it.
back then,
Yeah.
1400s. Wow.
And my dad is from Romania. He came in the early 60s. He was born in the 30s, so it wasn't that pleasant there. We did Aliyah. And from his side, I'm first generation.
And how many kids in your family?
We three. Got a year younger brother and a year older sister.
Okay, now as an Israeli, you did the usual thing, you went into the army. And one of the reasons I wanted to interview you is because you were a paratrooper.
Something like that, yeah. I did my training camp with the paratroopers, yeah.
And what was it like in the army? And I have a personal reason, because I told you my grandson's a paratrooper now.
We're talking a lot about
Yeah,
it.
and he's very much on my mind. In fact, I phoned him this morning, he was on patrol on the gas border.
Yeah. So one of my uncles actually was a paratrooper in the 6 Days War. That was a big story for us, right? They are the unit that conquered the wall of Jerusalem. So for me, it was kind of natural to follow the footsteps. Like my mom's family, they're very Zionist, and for every Israeli, you want to be the best, and the paratroopers, they are the best.
Is that where you started to take up physical exercise, or did you do that before?
Actually, I did it before. I grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood, and in our area, we didn't have basketball.
Where
or
were
hockey.
you brought up?
It's a neighborhood in the city of Bnei Brak.
Oh, Bnei Brak.
Yeah, it's a very religious city, Bnei Brak, but there is a small neighborhood there, and the only sports that I got there is judo, which is a martial art as well. It's a good way to protect yourself in that neighborhood anyway. So I started in a very early age, and I was 6 back then.
And so you started very young. So when you went in, when you went into the army, you were a tough guy and built like you are now?
The physical part, it was the easier part.
Right?
But I don't know if you know that to get even the red beret, you need a journey of around 100 kilometers.
Well, I was in Israel when my grandson did it. And when he finished, because they get the beret afterwards, he pulled up his shirt and he was bleeding all down the side. He was carrying the machine gun. It was 65 pounds. I don't know how much it weighed. The pack, it was...
That's the most respectful carry-on in those journeys.
It's really tough. I mean, it's crazy, I think. But anyway.
That's even above the physical side. That's a lot of mental to do that kind of journey. For a beret, right?
Yeah, because it's a piece of cloth, but it's not. It's not more. It's far more than that, obviously. Now, did anything happen to you when you were in the army? Any incidents, bad incidents?
The Israeli army is unlike a lot of other armies. You've got action in a daily base, you can call it, if you can call it an action. You're operational since day one. You just finish your training and you're going straight to the field. Doesn't matter if you're an infantry unit or boarding police. You live in constant threat, and that's what Israel is all about. That's why they've got such a big army, right?
But did any of your friends get killed? Anybody get injured? Or
a good friend of mine did get shot.
He did?
Yeah. Luckily for him and for us, he almost lost his leg, but he's good. He's got a big scar.
Were you with him at the time?
Yeah.
And how did it happen?
Basically from someone shot at him, right? It was from a long distance, so you didn't see it coming.
A sniper,
but,
I see.
Yeah,
because I told you about the incident with my grandson where his friend got killed, and how upsetting it is. It's very tough when your close buddy gets killed. Yeah. Now, when you finished the army, what did you do?
For me, the transformation again, it was easy. I went back exactly to what I did before the army. I used to train judo. I started to train kids in the age of 15.
I see.
So I went back to that source. I went to Wingate Institute. I did my training courses, and I went back to train.
So how did you get to come to Toronto?
Basically by accident.
By accident.
I came to visit a friend, and had a lot of requests for training people. I started to train a person, and rumors started to go around between friends about me as a trainer, and just got too busy.
When was that? How long have you been here?
3.5 years ago.
Okay. How have you found the adjustment? I mean, it's so different in Israel.
Completely different. It's like the opposite. But the people here, especially the Jewish community, they make you feel welcome.
But there's a different sense. I mean, in Israel, it's... just for example, on Shabbat, you go over your friend's house, you just drop in everywhere.
Everywhere.
That. It's more formal here.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? I mean, you have to get an invitation.
Yeah, I'm still working on it, right? Like someone inviting me for Shabbat dinner, I'm just bringing my friends with, right? But as Canadians,
you can't do that.
You can't do that, right? So I'm working on it. Still need some adjustments.
So they're training you.
I'm getting there.
Socializing.
I'm being Canadian. When I went to visit my family now in Israel, I start to call the other friends and family before I came. Like, why are you calling? Just come.
What other differences do you find? I mean, do you mostly hang around with the Israeli community in Toronto? Because now it's
most of my friends actually they're Canadian. Like
I see.
Yeah, Canadians. Most of them are Jews as well. Again, they're warm in their way. Right, like they do make you feel like home. They treat you even better because maybe you're Israeli, or again you can't see that from Israel. But when you're here, you see how their passion for Israel, how they appreciate Israel and Israelis and what they do. and the bonds as Jewish people.
Now, it's not one of the other differences here, of course, is you live in a very civil order and you don't have any threats.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense of that you're away from Israel and you're away from that pressure, or does it never leave you?
I don't know if it's away from the pressure, because again, all of my family and friends are there, and they live in that in a daily basis. They live in the threat. They live in like the Israeli life. And again, it's different here. You look at the 18, 19 years old kids here. They go into college. They party. In that age in Israel, you're sitting down somewhere in the mud in an ambush, waiting for terrorists to come. So it is making a change.
Yeah. Do you think you have an attitude that the kids are maybe spoiled here or anything like that?
They are spoiled here.
They are
Feel like they get immature in a later age, which is probably that's the right way to be, right? But different life, right?
Now, one of the other characteristics of Canadians is we're very cautious people, Canadians. I mean, we have the highest insurance. All kinds of things indicate the carefulness. And the Israelis are really risk takers.
Yeah.
Do you see that in your experience here?
Yes, I see that a lot. And it's another thing that you need to get used to when you come into Canada from Israel, which, by the way, the Canadian way is the better way, right? They need to be cautious. But the fact that Israel is taking risks is actually one of the things that put them on the map in the last, it's a new country, 62 years, but they got a lot of success, especially technological-wise.
Yeah, the risk comes in all kinds of ways.
Right,
it's when you're little kids, it's when you go on trips. And the Army, the whole thing is a risk-oriented society, whereas I think we're still very risk-averse in Canada. You know, so it makes a different culture. So how do you handle it when you see the difference?
Actually, I like it. I like the fact that there is some of the Canadians are very innocent too, comparing to Israelis. Right? First of all, we're very suspicious. Everybody is a suspect, right? Which Canadians, they're very trustable, right?
It's true. They're very trusting of other people, but there's another side to it. Do you find they're naive at all?
The Canadians?
Yeah.
Naive? They're not naive. They're nice people. They're good people from nature.
Yeah, we have this reputation around the world. Not always deserved, but we have it.
Yeah, now I'm supporting Canada too, right? Almost Canadian.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to become a Canadian?
Yeah, very soon.
I see.
Right, so I need to...
Well, okay, take that one. What about that issue of, because there's a sense of, it was older, where if you left Israel, it was your deem, you're going down, and you're sort of a bit of a traitor. That's disappeared a lot. But is it still there somewhat?
You never live in Israel. I'm always going there. I'm always going to stay Israeli. I always feel like I'm Israeli. I'm part of it. I feel like almost every Jew here feel the same way. You are actually like, I feel that from here maybe I'm helping more to Israel.
I see. So that whole era of feeling that is gone, you think?
Yeah, it's a small world today.
Yeah, because there's Israelis everywhere you travel.
Yeah.
It's where... there must be 10 million, 100 million Israelis, because everywhere you go to Tibet, you go to Chile, there's Israelis.
True. Just heard about Costa Rica, they got Israeli community, right?
That's right. No, it's remarkable, and you can't figure it out statistically how it works.
Yeah, for a small country.
But part of it is when you get out of the army, you travel.
Yeah.
And so you had this whole echelon of finishing the army, and they go out to the world. And
yeah, it's another thing. I didn't travel after the army.
Oh,
so
you didn't?
Basically, maybe that's my journey. That's my trip.
I see. So you never did a lot of traveling?
No, I went back to judo, to compete, to train. And that took most of my time after the army.
So how far, I don't know the belts, what's the highest belt?
For competitors, it's a black belt, but you've got different kind of ranks for black belts.
I assume you have a black belt.
Yeah.
And what rank are you?
It's a 3rd degree black belt.
And is first degree the best?
Actually,
or third degree is the best?
The highest is the best, right?
Oh, 3rd degree is the best?
The limit is the 10th degree.
Oh, 10th degree. Right. Oh, so you still have a way to go.
Yeah, it's a theoretical belt.
I see.
Only one person got it in his lifetime, so...
Really?
Yeah.
How many people would be at your level in the world?
In the world, not much. There is a good comparatives, but judo is the Israeli national sport.
No, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we got 3 Olympic medals from judo. So it's a big sport in Israel.
I see. Okay, we're going to take a break and then come back.
Okay.
Now back with Ehud Cohen from the Power Club. Erez, I want to talk to you about the club. My feeling about the club is interesting because I got involved when Rochelle Bronfman I was interviewing her about her charity work. And we got talking about the club, and she said, you ought to do exercise. She's a missionary for this exercise business. Anyway, I've tried it, and you've been a trainer, and the other guys have been a trainer, and it's interesting for me. But one of the things I find, you guys say, oh, excellent, everything I do is excellent. And I know I'm clumsy. So why do you do that? I'm curious.
First of all, we're always trying to support, right? That's our job. Like we do believe in positive support. Second of all, you're doing excellent, right? If you remember your first workout at now, where we came up to, you're doing great.
I
like
am?
last workout, like you amazed me. Like last workout, that was really good.
Well, I really want you to say that in front of my wife. That's why I have to say that.
So it's good. She can see it now, right?
I know, not yet, but maybe. But also, the other thing that happens is, you said at the very beginning when we talked about it, that, because I know it's true of a lot of athletes, they do exercise and they can't do without not exercising. It's true of my children. That I don't think is true of me. That you have to do it. You think it will come.
Yeah,
you
in
really
one
believe
point
it.
or the other. Like every one of us, we need to work out. If it's for health reasons, if it's for more mental reasons, if we're professional athletes, or if we're like just a common person on the street, right? We need to keep a healthy body. Like it's part of Judaism, right? Healthy mind and a healthy body.
Well, but when you do it, you have all these varieties. You'll have me do a minute here, 2 minutes. It's you never really tax me and wear me out.
One of the secrets actually of training is to change all the time, to surprise the body, so the body would not get used to something, right? Like that, we're burning the most calories, we stimulate the most muscles, and we make it interesting as well, right?
I see. So that's why you shift around all the time. And I never can tell what you're going to get me to do,
which is good. It's working.
Well, and when I do this, one of the things I find is the sense of I've talked to you about this. That the hardest thing I have to do is things that require balance. And is that usual, or is that me?
It's not unusual. As kids, we practice in a lot of balancing stuff. We actually competing even with other kids just to stand on one leg, right? With time, we forget to do it. We walking while we're sitting. We all day long in front of the computer. That's how we're spending most of our time, by sitting. And we're losing that sense of balance, which is a very important ingredient in our everyday life. So we have to train, we have to work on it.
Well, because when I was a kid, you had a generation came out of the shtetl. It wasn't identified with exercise, though we've done a lot of shows on where Jews in the 30s and 20s were Olympic athletes, etc., and went, in the whole business of the games and swimmers, especially from Hungary and places where they stressed athletics. But in the shtetl of Poland, that wasn't part of the picture. And so you come and you move into where athletics are now an integral part of life. How do you find it's integrated in the Jewish community? Is there still a leftover where physical exercise is still not really not important?
Yeah, it used to be the opposite. We are like a kind of a fighting nation. We always used to fight for our rights to exist, right? Back then it was the Maccabees or like the tribes of the Israelites back in the desert, they always used to fight. Used to be like a version of athletes, of super athletes. In a way, we declare it a little bit, and we went to other professions that actually require more brain to use it. A lot of doctors, lawyers. That's the new version of the Jewish person. Now it's turned into a more fashion statement. We're trying to go back to that.
Oh, so you see it as just recapturing that part.
Yeah, we just took a break from physical activity for a while. Now we need to
couple
of centuries.
More than a couple, but anyway. So you see yourself as more the authentic representative of that heritage.
In a way, all of us.
Are you religious as well, or not religious?
Not at all.
You came from B'nai Brak, but you didn't come from the religious sector.
No, we do keep tradition. I'm even keeping kosher, but no, I'm more traditional Israeli, Jewish.
I see. So that part hasn't been sewn together yet.
No.
But does the Power Club open on Shabbat?
No.
You don't open on Shabbat.
No.
So you observe that kind of part of
Yeah.
it. And do you get Orthodox kids coming?
Actually, yeah, we've got very Orthodox kids. We work in with Orthodox schools. Got women that work in with female trainers.
Oh, Orthodox women are coming in.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know that. I mean, I picture it as,
Yeah, we're a very private club. Like that's the type of the clientele. Some of our clients are celebrities. Some of them just want to have their privacy. Some of them are business people. If they want to get like the maximum privacy and to get to their best results, come into a Power Club.
It's advertising, free advertising. I don't mind. I don't mind. But I'm curious as how it's going to turn out, frankly, and whether because we'll do another exercise in an interview session. But when I'm more ready, I've got to lose some more weight.
by the next interview, the viewers will be surprised.
Well, I hope so. I am curious of whether I can do it, and I'm also curious of what I'll feel about doing it, because I haven't got the sensation yet that I have to do it. It's still a kind of burden to me. It interferes with my writing and my timetable, and so it's still a distraction. But I'm trying. I really am trying.
You are trying. You can say that.
And I am intrigued, because it's also an age, because this program is about actually aging and the health of aging, so it's appropriate to it. I am curious of whether given the age I am, can really go back after 50 years and become exercise and get my body in shape. I sort of don't believe it, but maybe.
Yeah, why not?
Well, I don't know. It's because there is a difference, because I know if I get a little injury, it takes a lot longer to heal. I'm sure my body reacts much slower than yours does. And,
but there is a lot of benefits to training at a later age as well. First of all, the hormones, the body produces way more hormones while you're working out. There is ways to stimulate it by good nutrition and good exercises, which basically keeping you younger.
From an older person exercising, it does more for him than a younger person?
Yeah. And one of the reasons that we're getting older is the body producing less hormones. You can stimulate the body to produce more hormones by exercise and good nutrition, keeping a good way of health.
Did you do courses in health, in nutrition as well?
Yeah.
I see, as part of your training to be a physical specialist. I see. Do you eat all kinds of food, or are you a health food?
I'm trying to eat healthy, but I'm still human, so I got temptation. So
you're not a veggie or a vegan?
Oh no, for sure. No, actually, I'm a very big meat eater.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious because you could be a kind of addict that says has a whole bunch.
Always saying don't be too extreme to one side. Live healthy life, but if you see something that you feel like that you want to take, you want to eat, we're still human. Just do it.
Has there been somebody you've been trained that really was transformed through your training?
Oh, a lot of them.
But not just physically. I mean, the personality almost changed. The image you have, when we were kids, they had comic books. And in the comic books, you had a guy running around the beach, kicking sand in the skinny guy's face. And Charles Atlas would then train him, and he'd become healthy and trained. His whole personality would change. That's what I mean. Is the personality as well as the body change as a result?
It's walking hand to hand. For example, I got this kid that used to get abused in school.
Oh, so there are
bullied,
examples.
yeah.
I see.
And actually, the person that sent him to me, she's a psychologist, kid psychologist, and he's going to her for a couple of years. And after 3 weeks, that kid can say been healed, right? He's got enough confidence. No one's bullying him anymore. You know that he's strong enough. He's looking better. He used to have a speaking problem. He don't have it anymore.
You mean stuttered?
Yeah. And he didn't come from a wealthy family, but his dad decided that's the best investment for him. It's cheaper than to take him to the psychologist every week.
And in 3 weeks, he changed.
That was in 3 weeks. The kid's still training. Still love it. It's getting better and better.
I'm a little surprised by that story. Are there other cases, or is
again, a lot of cases, a lot of women that get empowered if they got crisis. Sometimes it's divorce cases. Okay, people got the reasons to have more confidence, to be stronger, physically and mentally.
I know my brother my late brother who died. was an athlete. He couldn't go through a day without doing a day or two, an hour or two of exercise. And if he didn't, he'd get very depressed.
Yeah.
It was his personality. And I mean, I think there are different personalities
Oh yeah, for sure.
for which exercise is critical to their mental and physical health, and their mental health very much.
If you're getting used to it, again, it's how to let a day pass without working out. You feel bad with yourself. It's not that it's that fun to go to the gym. No one likes to go to the gym.
No, oh, so I'm
No,
not.
that's another secret that I'm telling you. No one like to walk out. It's a hard walk. Prefer to stay at home, watch television. There's way better things to do. But the benefits that you're getting after, they're worth everything.
I see. So you never told me that before, because I
can't tell you all of my secrets.
Well, because frankly, it's an effort to go.
It is an effort, but it's worth it.
I say, oh, I can't make an excuse. I'll go, but if I had an excuse, I would check out. But you're right. There are benefits, and Michael Cohen and I have a boxing match.
Oh yeah, we're waiting for that one. For two of you in a ring or in a cage.
Yeah, well, he's going to beat me, I know, but I have to put at least a good effort on.
Don't forget, I know his weak spots. I hope he's not going to watch it.
Oh, you're going to have to train me then. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a joy, and it's joy to some extent getting training.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I do hope you enjoyed tonight's show. We aspire to provide high quality as well as entertaining and objective programming that will inform, enlighten, and enrich the public's knowledge of Israel and the Jewish world. Comments are always welcome. So our memberships, please join. I hope you'll tune in next week. I'm Howard Edelman. Good night until then.